The incident began quietly enough at our favorite local cafe, a cozy nook nestled between a flower shop and a used bookstore. My younger sister, Emily, and I often came here to decompress after a hectic week. The cafe was warm, filled with the comforting drone of espresso machines, soft acoustic tunes, and the murmur of light conversation. Emily, always the introvert, was sipping her caramel latte, engrossed in a fantasy novel with a phoenix on the cover. She preferred the refuge of fictional worlds to the real one, and I couldn't fault her for its world wasn't always gentle with someone as reserved and sensitive as she was. I was halfway through my iced coffee, idly scrolling on my phone, when the bell above the door jangled sharply, as if it sensed trouble walking in. That's when she entered, Lisa, as we'd later call her. She was impossible to ignore, a sharp blonde pixie cut, oversized sunglasses perched on her head, a knockoff designer purse dangling from her arm, and an expression like she'd just bitten into something bitter. She stormed straight to the counter, cutting off a barista mid-sentence. "Why's the music so gloomy in here? Can't you play something upbeat?" she snapped, loud enough to turn heads. The barista, a college-aged kid with a patient but weary smile, explained the playlist was the owner's choice. Lisa scoffed, muttering something about hippie nonsense, and ordered a large almond milk latte with the tone of someone sentencing the barista to hard labor. I didn't think much of her at first. Cafes attract all sorts: students, freelancers, exhausted moms, and the occasional self-entitled customer who thinks their order gives them a crown. Emily didn't even glance up from her book, lost in her story. But then Lisa started pacing the cafe like a predator sizing up its prey, her eyes flicking from table to table with a scowl that screamed judgment. She was hunting for someone to criticize, someone to blame for whatever was souring her day. It didn't take long for her gaze to settle on us. I felt her stare before I saw it, piercing like a needle. When I looked up, our eyes locked briefly, and something in her expression shifted. She tilted her head, studying us like we were some strange exhibit, then zeroed in on Emily, who was still oblivious, nose buried in her novel. Lisa took a slow sip of her latte, then strutted over, her heels clicking like a countdown to chaos. She stopped at our table, arms crossed, coffee in hand, and glared down at Emily as if she'd personally offended her. "What's wrong with her?" Lisa asked, her voice loud and pointed, like we were props in her personal drama. Emily flinched, her eyes darting up from her book, wide with confusion. "Excuse me," I said, my tone sharp, protective. Lisa didn't flinch. She leaned closer, waving her hand vaguely at Emily. Her whole vibe is off. She's giving me bad energy. Is she, like, okay? Mentally. My blood boiled, my fists clenching under the table. "She's reading," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the urge to shout. "She's not bothering anyone." Emily shrank in her seat, her hands trembling as she gripped her book, no longer reading. Lisa huffed, like our mere presence was an insult. "Well, maybe she shouldn't stare so much. It's creepy. Some of us are sensitive to that kind of energy," she said, spitting the word energy like it was a scientific diagnosis. Before I could fire back, I heard chairs scrape nearby. Two men, who'd been sitting quietly at a corner table, stood up. They were unremarkable at first glance, mid-40s, jeans, plain shirts, the kind of guys who blend into a crowd. But the way they moved with calm precision screamed authority. One stepped forward, his voice slicing through the tension. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to stop harassing these customers." Lisa blinked, caught off guard. "And who are you?" she sneered, trying to laugh it off. The man pulled out a badge with a smooth flick of his wrist, and the cafe went silent. "Detective Harris, off duty but still in jurisdiction," he said coolly. "This young woman's been sitting here quietly. You've approached her, insulted her, and now you're disturbing everyone else. That's enough." Lisa's jaw dropped, her confidence faltering. She was staring at me. "She made me uncomfortable," she insisted, her voice now more defensive than commanding. The second detective, taller with a no-nonsense demeanor, crossed his arms. "So you thought confronting and insulting her in public was the solution? That's not how discomfort works, ma'am." The barista nodded subtly behind the counter, and a few patrons murmured in agreement. But Lisa wasn't done. She spun back toward us, her eyes blazing, and before anyone could react, she flung her latte at Emily. Time seemed to freeze as the hot liquid arced through the air. Emily screamed, stumbling back as the coffee splashed across her shoulder and neck, soaking her sweater. I shot up, reaching for her, rage and panic flooding me. Her skin was already reddening where the liquid hit, and tears welled in her eyes not just from pain, but from the shock of being attacked in front of strangers. But I didn't get a chance to confront Lisa. The detectives were already MOVing. That's assault. You're done, Detective Harris barked, closing in on Lisa, who stood defiant, clutching her empty cup like a shield. It was just coffee, she shouted. She provoked me. I have a right to my peace. But her voice cracked, betraying her uncertainty. The taller detective pulled out handcuffs with practiced ease. You threw scalding liquid at a minor in public. That's attempted bodily harm. You're under arrest. Lisa backed into a chair, her bravado crumbling as she scanned the room for support. No one moved. The barista was on the phone, likely calling 911, while an older woman nearby shook her head, muttering, "Unbelievable." Harris took the cup from Lisa's hand and cuffed her wrists in one fluid motion. The click of the cuffs echoed, final and damning. "You can't arrest me," she sputtered, twisting in his grip. "She's the one who, no," the second detective cut in, gesturing to us. "We saw everything, and so did half this cafe. Sit down and wait for the patrol unit, or we'll add resisting arrest to the list." Lisa's fight drained as the reality hit her. Every eye in the room was on her, and not one was on her side. She slumped into a chair, cuffed and silent, her face a mix of fury and humiliation. I knelt beside Emily, helping her peel off her soaked sweater, using napkins from a nearby customer to dab her skin. The burns looked angry but not severe, though her tears kept falling, more from shame than pain. "You're okay," I whispered, trying to steady us both. "She can't hurt you now." Paramedics arrived minutes later, checking Emily's neck and shoulder with calm efficiency. They confirmed it was a superficial burn but ADVY said monitoring. Emily shook her head when they offered a hospital visit, too overwhelmed to leave. Meanwhile, the detectives gave statements to uniformed officers who just arrived, while Lisa sat cuffed, her excuses growing weaker, something about weird energy, and feeling threatened. No one bought it. The cafe manager brought us fresh drinks, apologizing profusely despite it not being his fault. "We've got the security footage for the police," he said, wringing his hands. "Anything you need, let me know." I thanked him, still reeling. As Lisa was escorted out, still protesting, the cafe slowly returned to life, clinking dishes, soft music, hushed voices. Detective Harris handed me his card, urging us to call if we needed anything. Emily clutched a cold compress to her neck, staring at her untouched latte, processing in silence. I knew it'd take time, but she was safe now. That was enough for today. By the time we left, the sun was harsher, casting long shadows as we walked to the car. Emily was quiet, the compress still pressed to her skin. At home, we tried for normalcy: takeout, TV, blankets, but the incident lingered like a bruise. Emily barely spoke until nightfall. "I didn't even look at her," she whispered, her voice small. "Not in a weird way. I was just reading." My heart ached at how deeply Lisa's words had cut. "You did nothing wrong," I said, sitting beside her. "Some people can't handle quiet, kind people. That's their problem, not yours." She leaned against me, and though she didn't reply, I felt her relax slightly. It was a start. Monday brought a call from Detective Harris. They were pressing charges: assault, public disturbance, and attempted bodily harm due to the coffee's temperature. The cafe's footage and witness statements backed us up. Lisa had posted bail but wasn't off the hook. When I told Emily, she looked stunned. "They're really taking it seriously?" she asked, as if justice was a foreign concept. "They are," I said. "You deserve to feel safe." 2 days later, we went to the precinct, a tired building smelling of stale coffee and sanitizer. Harris met us, leading us to a small room where Emily gave her statement. Her voice shook at first but grew steady as she recounted everything: Lisa's approach, her insults, the burning splash. She didn't exaggerate, just spoke her truth. Harris nodded with respect. "You did good," he told her. "Honesty matters." My statement echoed hers, adding details of Lisa's behavior. We left feeling lighter, heard, believed. A month later, we sat in a courtroom, its wood-paneled walls and cold air heavy with anticipation. Emily fidgeted beside me, nervous but resolute. Lisa entered, her hair in a tight bun, her blazer ill-fitting, her lawyer disheveled. She avoided our gaze, her confidence gone. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with silver-streaked hair, wasted no time. The prosecution laid out the case. An unprovoked assault with scalding coffee, backed by footage, witnesses, and detectives. They sought fines, therapy, and community service Senate jail, but accountability. Harris testified first, his calm recounting airtight. The barista and other patrons followed, their stories aligning perfectly. When Emily took the stand, her voice was soft but clear, detailing Lisa's aggression and the pain of the burn. Lisa's lawyer tried to twist it, suggesting Emily's stare provoked her, but Emily shut it down. I was reading. I didn't look at her until she yelled. The judge nodded, unimpressed by the defense. Lisa's testimony was a mess. She claimed Emily's energy threatened her, painting herself as a victim of spiritual distress. It was laughably transparent, and the judge wasn't buying it. The medical report of Emily's burn sealed Lisa's fate. The judge promised a verdict in 2 days, and we left, Emily's posture stronger, her eyes brighter. When we returned, the courtroom felt different, less tense, like it was ready to exhale. Lisa looked drained, her bravado gone. The judge delivered her verdict swiftly, guilty of misdemeanor assault and attempted bodily harm. Lisa got 100 hours of community service, mandatory anger management, a $5,000 fine, and $2,500 in restitution to Emily for medical costs and distress. This court doesn't tolerate aggression disguised as entitlement, the judge said, her gavel striking like a full stop. Lisa sat motionless, hollowed out. Emily, though, looked calm, almost peaceful. Outside, under a gray sky, she smiled a real, unforced smile. I didn't expect to feel anything, she said. But I do. Like a window's finally open. I nodded, understanding. Justice wasn't about erasing pain. It was about being seen, believed, and validated. Weeks later, Emily eased back into lifebooks, cafes, sunny afternoons with a new steadiness. She didn't flinch at loud voices or glance over her shoulder anymore. Lisa, we heard, was cleaning highways and stocking shelters for her service. Whether she learned anything, we didn't care. She was no longer our story's center, just a footnote in Emily's resilience. The world sometimes tells people like Emily they're too quiet, too soft, too different to matter. But that day in the cafe, when Lisa tried to break her with cruelty, the world pushed back through strangers, detectives, a judge who saw Emily's dignity. Justice didn't erase the scar, but it let us breathe, let us walk away, and that was enough.